Personal lube is a liquid or a gel that you use during sex to enhance pleasure. It's for everyone, everywhere. No matter if you're 20 or you're 99, it makes sex better and it can take your sex life to the next level. People often think that they should only use lube when there's pain during sex. And that's a great time to use it because there is friction involved in sex. And it doesn't matter how naturally lubricated you are, that can change. Even during a sexual activity, you can start off very wet. And then as you progress through the activity, you can find that your level of moisture changes. And so lube can really help to keep that consistency there and minimize the swelling and tearing and irritation that comes along with it. So with less pain, you can try more positions. With less pain, you can have deeper thrusts during penetrative sex. But that's not the only reason that you should be using lube. Lube takes away a lot of the risk by reducing infections, the bacterial vaginosis, the yeast infections, sexually transmitted diseases that come along. Lube also can help to protect your vagina's microbiome, which is a hot topic right now. It's just basically the collection of bacteria and fungi and viruses and their genes that are all naturally there inside of your vagina. And sex can throw off the pH levels in your microbiome. And that happens due to latex of the condom or even your partner's semen just kind of entering into your space. Lube can help to normalize those pH levels and minimize the disturbance. So there are three main types of lube right now. We have water-based, we have silicone-based, and we have oil-based. Water-based lubes tend to have more of a natural feel, and they are the overall general lube that you want to use when it comes to playing with your toys. Sex toys don't get broken down by water-based lubes. They're also safe to use with latex condoms. It doesn't stain your sheets or leave a residue and washes off easily. And then a con that you might not be aware of is that it doesn't last very long. And so for some folks, they might need to reapply several times when they're using a water-based lube, and that might not be what you're looking for. A silicone-based lube is great for sex in the shower or in the tub or anywhere where water is going to be a part of the fun. And the reason for this is that water is not a natural lubricant, and it actually can make things hurt more because it brings about a little bit more friction and it can make things drier. This is the preferred lube also if you want to try a little anal play, because the rear door is thin and it can tear easily, and the silicone is a really great barrier and it helps to make it much more of a pleasurable experience. And then your cons is that it can be a little bit messy, a little bit sticky, a little bit hard to clean up. It might stain and it might wear down your toys. And then the last major category here is an oil-based lube. And this one's great because it's natural. It's good to use for massage. It can be used externally and internally, and it feels a little bit more like a heavier moisture than a water-based and a little bit less sticky than a silicone. But they can be messy and they can stain too. And they are sometimes linked to messing with condoms' effectiveness. And so this is something that you want to pay attention to. And they can also wreak havoc on your vagina's microbiome and causing yeast infections or bacterial vaginosis. And so this is something to keep in mind also. Lubes come in all different kinds of forms, as we've talked about, but there's some things that you might want to look out for. We're not looking for lubes that have petroleum jelly, baby oil, glycerin, propylene glycol, which can cause irritation sometimes. And you want to look out for parabens and sulfates because they've been linked to difficulties in conceiving. I encourage everybody to experiment a little bit with their lubes. Play around with it, do a skin test, put it on your skin, see if you have any reaction to it. It's okay for you to experiment. It's okay to see what works with your body. And in most cases, I say, if you don't know what it is and you can't easily find out, you probably want to stay away from it. So how do you apply lube is a great question. That can be different for everybody. I like to empower women to take control of their sexuality, and whatever feels good to them is what feels good to them. And I want for women to be able to talk to their partner about what it is that they like. Sometimes you might want to apply the lubricant yourself. Sometimes you might want your partner to apply the lubricant, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. I also think that lube in itself can be very sexy, and so maybe that becomes a part of the foreplay, looking at the shape of the bottle, looking at it squeezing out of the bottle, playing with it in your hand, playing with it with your partner, getting those sensations and using it as part of the foreplay instead of it being this act of having to do something before sex starts. There's a lot of shame and there's a lot of stigma around the idea of using lube. And I really chuck this up to the misconceptions we have about wetness. So a lot of penis owners can feel like their partners are not being turned on if they have to use lube. And then there are vulva owners who feel like there's something that's wrong with them because they're not naturally lubricated enough. And I think we've been sold this idea that if you are into your partner, if you're hot, if you are feeling desire, then you're really wet, you're very naturally lubricated, and that's just not the truth. There's all kinds of reasons why wetness may vary. It can be medications that you're using. It could be stress that you're experiencing. You could not be feeling so great about your body or be in your head. Performance anxiety might be a part of it. And of course, some of the major reasons are hormone levels. So depending on what stage of life you're in. One of the questions that I often get is about women who are faced with menopause or perimenopause, and whether or not lubricants help them. And I like to do my Meg Ryan in When Harry Met Sally impression with the yes, yes, yes.
I have what she's having.
It is a big yes, because when you go through menopause or perimenopause, that messes with your pH levels and it decreases your amount of estrogen and testosterone, and that messes with your natural lubrication. It also creates a feeling of dryness, and that can increase your risk of infections and UTIs. And this is just a fact. And this is true for postpartum women also. After you give birth, there's more dryness and some soreness just after giving birth. And then at different times of your cycle, you're more lubricated than other times in your cycle. We deal with this by adding lube. And in addition to this, I think, there's not a lot of talk about different kinds of desire. So we think about desire as being all physical, but sometimes there is an emotional or a spiritual desire to want to connect with your partner. You want to feel closer to them. You want to connect with them. Or you understand that sex might relieve stress or cramps or help with insomnia. And sometimes that's with your partner or not with your partner. And lube can really help you in all of these different ways of having desire. It can be there when maybe the natural lubrication is there, but you're there mentally and you want to be intimate with your partner. And let's be honest, if you're in the stage of life that I am right now, and I know a lot of you guys might be, you have a career, you have kids, you have family obligations, and you don't have as much time for sex and for foreplay. You got to worry about the kids coming in the room. You have to have it scheduled at a certain time, which is great. It's wonderful. But lube can really help get there a little bit earlier without all that extra work that goes into foreplay. And foreplay is wonderful, and there should be time for foreplay. But realistically, there's not always time for foreplay. And so lube can be a really big help in that area as well. We are in the middle of a lube revolution right now. And so I want for people who are going through this stage of life to feel excited about all the different ways that they can play around with lube, all of the different types of lubes that are coming out there. Feels like there's a new lube coming out every month, or a new type of lube coming out every month, a new flavor, a new hybrid. And so It's a really fun time to play around and experiment and just to have a little fun with it. It's your time to shine if you're at this stage of life.